Alright, peace. Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving honor and praise to the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Giving double honors to 7130 South Chicago that taught me this truth. And giving double honors to all the brothers and sisters that the Creator has awoken in these last days. With that being said, peace and shalom. Alright, I was looking at a segment or a conversation on this show called TheBaseConservative, and he was doing a segment on Jesse Lee Peterson, and how Jesse Lee Peterson has a podcast, and basically Jesse Lee Peterson is basically a so-called black man that love the policies and the governmental structure of America. So what he does is he brings his own people on the show to race bait them over things that have happened throughout history in the country. Because his whole objective is that even though we went through slavery, basically we're not in slavery anymore. And see, when you have a person like that thinks like that, and that's really misinformed on his history, a person like him is very dangerous. It's because, well, why do you say that? It's because these are the so-called black people that really hate their own people, right? Because they have jumped over a lot of hurdles and things of this nature. They have made different strides in the country where they want to sit over our people and lord over us, right? So if we have a disagreement about some of the things that they have to say, then they have an issue with it. So let's talk about some of the things that was said by Jesse Lee Peterson and the base conservative guy. Now, Jesse Lee Peterson, he was talking about countless of things, right? And one of the things that he was alluding to was because the Christian guy, he was talking about, I think her last name Taylor, she had got killed by the police. And basically, Jesse Lee Peterson, he believed that it was her fault that she got killed because she had a relationship with a drug dealer, right? So he said those things. He was like, well, if she would have never been dealing with a drug dealer, then that would have never happened to her. But see, but when you hear people like this what shows you that life is cheap towards our people, and you have a lot of people that look just like you, they don't have no respect for you. Because, a lot of times you may not share the same values as they do. So, going back to that situation, the cops busted into her house without a warrant. And I believe that the boyfriend started shooting at them is because he thought that they was intruders. But let's say that they had a warrant. you still have to do your job, right? You just can't bust in somebody else's house and start shooting uncontrollably. And these are some of the issues that we've been talking about for years. Now, she may have been messing around with a drug dealer, but that does not give a person a right to just outright take your life just because you may be doing something that a person don't approve of. So let me get this straight. Just because I sell drugs, that means that my life is not of value. And see, this is what is hypocritical about Jesse Lee Peterson, is because the same thing that he says about so-called black people like mainly black folks, according to him, that sell drugs, right? Well, the United States of America does the same thing. They sell drugs. Now, back in the day, they was locking everybody up for marijuana. Now they're selling it legally. But I thought all while I was a kid that marijuana was a drug. And same thing with cocaine. Now, the base conservative guy, he made a statement and said that, I think he said in 2022 or 23, I forget the date. Not the date, but the year. He was saying that it's more blacks killing blacks than white men killing black men. And that probably be true, right? But see, the base conservative person, which is a racist himself, why are young black men killing each other? Because ever since Reconstruction, there has been a concerted effort to destroy or dismantle the family. See, the base conservative person is not telling the people that when we was free in this country, so-called in 1865, that you had Caucasians that was setting up situations to sterilize our people at a young age so we won't be able to reproduce. And also, they never addressed the situation of slavery. They never addressed that. See, you can't dehumanize a people for 200 and something years and then turn around and take shackles off of them and expect them to live a certain type of way. You can't do that. And see, what slavery has done to our people, it has destroyed us, is because we don't have a culture. We have it, but we don't know what it is. So here it is, you have millions of black people that was brought over here in slavery that was stripped of the knowledge of self. And when we talk about the knowledge of self, what are we talking about? We're talking about language, culture. We're talking about heritage and things of this nature. Identity, nationality. When you rob people of something that everybody else has, and then you dehumanize them, you rape their foreparents, right? When a person tries to get away from slavery, you chop their foot off. You hang them on trees. You set up a climate of fear amongst black people that still exists even to this day. you miseducate the people. This is why when you ask a so-called black person what's his nationality, he can't tell you. He's gonna tell you everything except what it is, right? And what these people don't understand is that the people that they brought over here via the slave trade were none other than the descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, see? And see, this is why the country is being judged. Is because you put the nation of Israel in slavery. And I know that a lot of that stuff goes over people's heads, and most people don't believe that. Is because all y'all years being on this planet, you have addressed the so-called black man as a savage that live in a jungle of a subhuman level, the coon, the black man, the Negro, all this type of stuff. And the reason why you're doing this is because of what? Because of slavery. So let's catapult all the way up to today. Why is there so many young black men that's killing one another? One of the major reasons why they're killing each other is because, why? It's because you broke up the families, right? See, during the Reconstruction years, when Caucasians was getting public assistance to help them out with their families and things of this nature, see, they didn't take the men out of the houses because they understood family structure. But with the so-called black man, he was removed out of his household. And then a lot of times wasn't even allowed to get the same type of employment or jobs as white people. So when you remove a man out of his household, what's going to happen? It's going to destroy the family. And what else did you do? You waged war against the black community by putting drugs in the community. What you think that the Contra Wars, the funding for the Contra Wars was the drugs that y'all was allowing to come over here, right? And you put it in the hands of young, ignorant, so-called black men. Ignorant only means that you don't know any better. That was in poverty and things of this nature. You put those drugs in their hands, and you step back and you watch them destroy their own communities. This is what you did. You set up economics in the neighborhood, and you take all the wealth out of the communities. Right? So if you take all the wealth out of the communities, the money and things of this nature, then what are you going to have? You're going to have crime. And these Caucasians, they understand this. But you have people like Lee Peterson that goes on his show on purpose to go against his own people because he got him an education or he started him a business and things of this nature. But don't even really understand the history of our people in this country. The Caucasian has never addressed slavery on the level where it can help the so-called black man pull his bootstraps up. Well, how do you do that? When you reintroduce him back to his culture, his language. See, this guy, Jesse Lee Peterson, is just about business and things of this nature. This thing is much bigger than this. And see, he's so dumb that he himself don't even believe that he's a slave. Why? It's because he can go into any store that he wants to. The same thing that he criticizes the civil rights movement and all these different people that fought for different things in the country is the same thing that he's benefiting off of. He's benefiting off of some of the laws that was passed by the not the NAACP. Yeah, the NAACP. Different fractions of black people that fought for different things in the country, he's benefiting off of it. But his contribution is to do what? Is to thumb his nose at the same people that was lynched, that was hanged, that was discriminated against just off the bounds of the color of their skin. And this is why a person like this is dangerous to our people, is because he's helping people by telling people to go get a job and get an education and stuff like that. But these same educated Negroes that brag about business that they done created, they don't come back to their own communities. They don't come back to the communities and help build up their communities. Where was this guy at when you had the drug epidemic in the neighborhoods? See, these are the questions that we have to answer. These guys that have so much to say about the hood or the projects, where were they? When you had an epidemic of drugs in the neighborhood, you had these guys, gangs, all this type of stuff. These same people will go to war for the Caucasian, go thousands of miles and fight against people that they don't even know. But here it is, they have their own war in their own neighborhood, and they won't even stand firm on that. This is why these people are dangerous. It's because of their hatred towards their own people. See, a lot of times when you have a person like Jesse Lee Peterson, his hatred towards his own people is basically a reflection of himself, of where he could have been at if he didn't have certain things or certain gifts and certain talents that he could have put together. You know what I'm saying? Because you have kids today, right? You got a lot of these kids, they very talented. But because they don't have the proper leadership at home, a lot of times they fall by the wayside. And he could have been the same person. He talked about George Floyd. And I love talking about this topic because you got black people and you got white folks that is lying on YouTube saying that the man died from fentanyl. Now, I don't know what he may have took fentanyl, right? But you can clearly see the cop put his foot on this man's neck. You had two people. Let's say, for instance, that they had to put their foot on his neck, right? Because he's uncontrollable. They can't really, right? They could have did that and put the handcuffs on him. And they could have easily took their foot off of his neck. But because this white guy comes into the black neighborhood, right, he looks at black people as savages. And George Floyd, they talked about Jesse Lee Peterson, talked about he wasn't nothing but basically a loser, a crackhead, and all this. I be so tired of hearing this stuff. Yes, George Floyd was on drugs. George Floyd was he was into porn just as well, right? But irregardless of all of that, that still doesn't give you the right to kill this man in cold blood, and then you turn around and say it never happened, that it was his fault. He took an overdose of fentanyl. First of all, this is what shows you that these people are lying. It's because I remember a female, right? She was a cop. I think they pulled somebody over on the traffic stop. And they found fentanyl in the back seat. I think it was the back trunk. Do you know that stuff was so potent that she collapsed when she went back there and looked at this in the back trunk and saw all this stuff? They had to get her away from the car. This is how potent this stuff was. So you mean to tell me that this guy that went into the store and tried to pan off a $20 bill, I guess to buy some food or whatever he was going to do, right? Which he did wrong. That he was so high off of fentanyl. He took an overdose of fentanyl. If that was the case, he would have already been dead. And then, let's say he took the fentanyl, an overdose like they say he did. Let's say he did some of that stuff in the car. People that OD and stuff like that, a lot of them they jumping up and down on the floor, having seizures, all type. The man was not ODing off of no fentanyl. The reason why the man got killed is because of the white officer that decided it was a bright idea to wrestle this man down on the floor because he was resisting arrest and put his foot on his neck. And this is what killed him. I don't care what angle that you put it in, he had his foot on his neck. Now let's say that he may have had to do that, right? But the man had his foot on his neck for damn near 20 minutes. I think it was like 10, something like that. It was a long time that he had his foot on his neck. I mean, not his foot, but his knee. He had his knee on the man's neck. Excuse me, he didn't have his foot, but he had his knee on his neck. And this is not the first time that he had did this. I believe that he did it to a black woman. I think that he did it to a woman before. And I think she was a so-called black woman. You know, the scripture says that they slay us and they hold themselves not guilty. You know, the guy he talked, TheBaseConservative says that it's more black people that's killing each other. But he's not telling you why they doing it. It's because white folks built a platform where black people are killing each other. If you don't control your neighborhoods, you don't control your educational system, leadership, and health, you're going to have an appetite for destruction. A lot of these Caucasians are building their neighborhoods up off of the backs of black folks in their neighborhoods. This is what's going on. But you got these bourgeoisie Negroes that is always on the vanguard for the Caucasian. This Negro thinks that he's actually free. True freedom is when a man is able to control the ground that he stands on. And what does that mean? He got to have his own country so that he can govern himself. He can pull the natural resources out of the ground and trade with other countries. We don't have that. So how are we free? American is not a nationality. That's just a governmental tag. So here it is, you got this bald-headed, stupid Negro sitting around here talking about we Americans. That's not a nationality. But most black people that be in prison for a long time, they come accustomed to being in prison. I remember this guy I knew, close friend, he'd been in prison a couple of times. When it was time for him to go home, to leave prison, he didn't want to leave. It's because he had developed a lifestyle in the prison system. And then two, he knew that he was going to struggle when he got out of prison. Because he ain't had no skills. He couldn't do nothing with his hands. He can't build nothing with his mind, right? It's because all the time that he was in prison, he focused on gang culture and all this type of stuff, and then he had a drug habit too. See? So my thing is, this is the same mindset that Jesse Lee Peterson has. But the only difference between him and my friend that was in prison is that Jesse Lee Peterson and a lot of people that think just like him, they can build stuff by themselves. But they can't see themselves leaving this country, going into a land and build up a governmental structure on their own. They can't see that. They can't even see themselves coming together with their own people. This is how destroyed this guy is. He can't see. Then he made a statement talking about, because the comedian guy, it was another show I was listening to with him. The comedian guy said, well, what do you do for your community? Well, I come there and I encourage them to go get a job and all this. All that, that's fine. But what are you building in the community? How you gonna criticize the black community and you won't even come back to the black community and build nothing? These bourgeoisie Negroes, they talk about the black community, how it's infected with drugs, prostitution, whatever that's negative. But you notice something about them? They talk about how they done had businesses and things of this nature, right? They done been to college. They done been to the best universities. But none of these people come back to their own neighborhoods and build something. They not at the PTA meetings trying to stop crime. They not doing nothing. They living deliciously with the Caucasian. This is what they doing. So this is why I say that they're dangerous towards our people, is because they don't have nothing positive to give to our people. Nothing of encouragement. So with that being said, brothers and sisters, peace, shalom.